Hello, I'm Jan Czerwiński and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them and tell you everything you need to know. The Russian Ministry of Aggression, often mislabeled as the Ministry of Defense, has proudly announced that Russian and Belarusian armed forces have commenced their joint drills involving the deployment of tactical nuclear weapons, meaning the lower-yield bombs. The purpose of the exercise? To maintain personnel readiness for deploying Russian and Belarusian tactical nuclear weapons to ensure the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the so-called Union State. Back in May, the Russian General Staff, working on orders from Vladimir Putin, began laying down the groundwork for missile artillery forces to exercise deploying tactical nukes. As the required reason, Moscow gave recent statements from French President Emmanuel Macron and other European politicians who signed off on deploying Western forces in Ukraine. Putin's two-faced morals should come as no surprise to anyone at this point. So just out of sheer journalistic duty, let's bring up his own nervous response to Polish politicians floating the idea of Warsaw joining the nuclear sharing program. Putin tried to be so convincing as he went on saying that Russia is not saber-rattling with nukes and that Russia holding nuclear drills right next to Poland, meaning right on NATO's doorstep, is completely normal. That's what happens when someone sees themselves as God's chosen man. Let's have a look at a clip from a discussion panel held in Leningrad. St. Petersburg. Be sure to check out the moderator.
Понимаем, что убыстрение движения по лестнице ядерной эскалации может сэкономить большое количество жизней, потому что может образумить наших противников. Конечно, сейчас рано, наверное, идти на ядерную эскалацию, но движется к этому надо, чтобы охладить наших противников.
В данном случае, уж извините, я боюсь нанести травму вашему такому имперскому сознанию.
Если мы не пойдем более решительно по лестнице эскалации, то не прогреем ли мы даже и Всевышнего? Ведь Всевышний указал нам когда-то путь, когда он за беспутство и разврат уничтожил огненным дождем Содом и Гоморру. И после этого человечество очень долгие годы помнило об этом и вело себя аккуратно. Но теперь оно забыло про Содом и Гоморров. Так, может быть, вспомним об этом дожде и постараемся снова вразумить человечество, или ту часть человечества, которая потеряла веру в Бога и потеряла разум.
Okay, so the takeaway here is that God apparently nuked Sodom and Gomorrah. Apparently, non-proliferation treaties did not apply back then. The panel, featuring Comrade Tsar himself, was moderated by Sergei Karaganov, Doctor of Political Sciences and Dean at Moscow's Higher School of Economics. His books have been published in at least 50 countries. And he has been listed as one of the 100 most influential intellectuals by Foreign Policy and Prospects. Meanwhile, Karaganov claims it is God's will for Russia to enter into a nuclear conflict with the decadent West and compares Russia to the God of the Old Testament. If you ever thought that the audience for Putin's imperialist nonsense was made up of frustrated rural dwellers, think again. And Karaganov is just another thorn in the West's side. But he perfectly illustrated the love of Russian arrogance and fascination with the evil empire that still afflicts Western elites. It took the full-scale invasion and the horrors of Bucha and Irpin to finally wake the world up. But did it actually work? Asked about the possibility of Macron resigning, Dmitry Peskov, Vladimir Putin's spokesman, said that he feels it is too early to say, because the snap elections are still a couple of weeks away. He added that any valid analysis of the situation must necessarily wait for after the elections. At the same time, he lamented the falling popularity of Macron's Renaissance Party. According to Peskov, this is nothing more than an indication of the growing dissatisfaction of the people of France. We see trends, he said, adding that Macron's party took only half of the votes of the far-right National Rally, and that Renaissance is quickly losing the ground beneath its feet. And Peskov believes that these indicators should simply not be ignored. Peskov must be feeling really proud of himself. Russia has never seen a democratic election, and the support numbers for Putin are whatever the Kremlin's propagandists say they are. Ah yes, good old law and order in Putin's Russia, rather than the dictatorship of the mob. The public deciding who's supposed to rule? Nonsense. But that's Peskov's bread and butter. So, what happens when two Russian liars meet? Well, you don't have to imagine, because we have it on video. Recently, Russian propagandist Olga Skabeyeva met the chairwoman of the Federation Council of Russia, Valentina Matviyenko. Let's take a look.
Ну, мы никому ничего плохого не делали, мы ни на кого не нападали, в отличие от Соединенных Штатов Америки.
Really? Russia was not occupying Ukrainian soil in 2014? Russia never started wars in foreign countries? Russian authorities never claimed they wanted to denazify Ukraine? And no one can even explain what that term, denazify, actually means or entails. No, Russia didn't raze Ukrainian cities to the ground, Russia never killed anyone. Well, then why is Russia so unpopular around the world? Why does nearly the entire globe believe that Russia is a terrorist state? I wonder who they are trying to convince more, us or themselves? What it's like being Russian abroad. Fortunately, we're not Russians, so we don't know. But Russians themselves regularly upload pictures and footage of what it looks like on social media. A Russian family went to vacation in Turkey. What could go wrong? Well, let's take a look.
Ребят, всем привет! Мы приехали сегодня в Турцию, повесили российский флаг вот на дереве у себя на балкончике рядом со своим номером. Не знаю, почему так происходит, но наш российский флаг измазали говном. Измазали весь наш балкон говном, все наши лежаки. Вот детский памперс весь в говне, все вещи в говне. Ребят, что нам делать? Мы русские. Почему мы не можем приехать и вот такое вот отношение? Давайте будем что-то делать. Естественно, будем обращаться к руководству отеля.
I don't know what's more funny, the whole situation or the sincere surprise in the Russians' eyes. And yes, why would someone do that? Well, maybe because Russia launched a war against a sovereign neighbor. Or wait, maybe it's because they can't stop threatening everyone around them. There are so many reasons, and we don't actually have that much time here. But our advice for all Russians abroad is, next time, think twice before letting people know where you're from. And since we're on the subject of Russians, why not talk now about those living inside the Russian Federation? A video appeared online recently showing Russian soldiers talking about having fun by wiping their feet on a doormat with portraits of Biden and Zelensky.
Сука! Они сейчас вдвоем, да, мой и твой портрет, бля.
First, that's Russians for you. These people lost their limbs in an illegal war, and along with them, their previous lives. They went to fight on behalf of their imperialist Tsar, only to be maimed. And for what? For their idea of fun to now be limited to using pictures of other nations' presidents as their doormats. Really? Maybe the people of Russia should think about who it is they're fighting for? But what's even worse in this situation is that Russian propagandists keep using such videos for their own sinister purposes. They are supposed to show the maimed soldiers as happy. But are they actually happy? These men will likely never again be able to experience life as it was before. It is time for Russians to think about their lives first, and not the Tsar's whims. And with this, we end this episode of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.